That was Don't Fear the Reaper from Bluey Oyster Cult. Very spooky sounding song and one of my personal favorites. I always play one of my personal favorites here on the show. So, welcome back. If you are just joining us, I was a little late, and so once again I do apologize, but yeah, that song is very interesting. Not a lot of people know, but it's actually a love song. Very weird, I know. It's actually about two lovers being reunited after life, in other words, in death. Hence why one of them is singing to the other, Don't Fear the Reaper. But yeah, it's a really good song, really spooky sounding. I'm surprised it's not popular near Halloween time. I know it's been quite a bit since Halloween, but to me it's interesting that we don't hear that song very as often as others, such as Thriller, the Monster Mash. I think another song that I would reckon would be Halloweeny would be Somebody's Watching Me from Rockwell. If you haven't heard that one, I might play it later on. But that song is also very interesting because, interesting fact, Michael Jackson is present in the song that he didn't write. My father told me this as a kid, but the song from Rockwell, um, basically his father owned the production company that Michael Jackson was signed on to. And so when he was asked to do the backup vocals in the song, it was like one of those deals where he couldn't really say no. So yeah, it's a very interesting story, very funny. But yeah, let's continue on with today's show. First up on the news is that HBO is canceling Westworld after 4 seasons. The cancellation was pretty sudden as the season had just ended back in late August, and it's kind of sad, really. Westworld was a phenomenon for the time being. It essentially is about this sort of theme park where people can go on and kind of pretend to be in the Wild Wild West. And it was a very interesting. There was a lot of sci-fi elements to it. There a lot of the quote unquote NPCs were basically just robots, and that made the whole thing kind of a fun ride, really. And it's sad to see another great show canceled from HBO. Which, funny enough, we talk about a lot of DC shows on the show, and one of the biggest movies that have been canceled from DC was the Batgirl movie. Makes me wonder if HBO was going to air that at some point. Speaking of cowboys, though, in terms of from Westworld, one thing that I wanted to talk about was a game that's been well known for a while. It came out a few years ago, and one that I was thinking about giving a few words on, and that is Red Dead Redemption 2, a very well made game from Rockstar, and one that I started recently enjoying again. I bought the game for my birthday when I was in high school. That was about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, and I had never played it. Reason being is, get this, I forgot how to get on my horse. I forgot the button, and at the time I was just overwhelmed with all the mechanics. They had different bars for like your this mechanic called Deadeye. You had your stamina bar, your health bar. Your horse also had a health bar and stamina bar. You had to keep eating to replenish those bars and stuff. I was just really overwhelmed by all the mechanics at first, and so that kind of gave me a negative impression of the game for a while. I just kind of wanted to essentially like not really play it all that much because I just felt like the game was too realistic. There's a balance of realism and a balance of fun. Things to suspend your belief, things that aren't realistic but are there for the point of entertainment. For example, if your character gets shot, they'll keep going instead of real life where probably they'd go down pretty easily. And so I didn't play the game for a while until a couple months ago. I just decided, you know what, let's go on one last ride, right? So I started playing it, and my opinion of the game has changed wholeheartedly. For starters, the main character, Arthur Morgan, is a very, very interesting one. He is this outlaw who doesn't seem to care all that much about stuff unless it involved getting richer or help provide for his makeshift family, which is the gang that he's in, the Vanderlyn gang, with the leader Dutch, who basically raised the guy. And he's this hardened outlaw, but like depending on the way that you play him, he's got this like soft side. At least my version of him has this soft side to him, where he calls ladies miss, he's like, hello, mister, all over the place. And, it's fun that the game gives you these sort of moments where you can choose how you want your Arthur Morgan to be. You can either be this tough, non-caring cowboy, or you could be this good outlaw, and it's very interesting in how it impacts the people around you and the way that Arthur acts during some of the missions, excuse me. And the gameplay, oh my gosh, the gunplay is some of the best that I've ever experienced. It feels satisfying to fire a shot, and it feels adaptive, it feels harrowing. It feels like, you're in the middle of a fight, and, there's not a few, not a lot of, excuse me, got tongue tied there. There's not a lot of games that really help me experience that in a way. And so far, I haven't beaten the game yet, but the story is phenomenal so far. I'm really enjoying where it's going. And, I've heard that it's got a sad ending. I know one part of the ending. I won't say it for those of you who may not have played it. But let me tell you, I'm not anticipating that. I'm not anticipating that at all. I feel like I'm going to have a hard time going through the motions. So who knows? Maybe I'll come and talk about it later when I actually do finish it. Right now, I think I'm in Act 4, maybe, when they're in Shady Belle. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. And so the music too, I'm not one for westerns really. The only western movie I've ever seen has been The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Great movie, great film. If you can survive the slog that the middle of the movie is, which I'll admit is not the most exciting thing, I promise it'll be worth it. The finale of that movie is so good. It kept me on the edge of my seat when I first saw it, and I think it truly is one of the best westerns. That's the only western movie I've seen. So when I went into Red Dead, I wasn't expecting too much, but the sound design, the music, it really makes me feel immersed in the world. There are certain little details that Rockstar like got right. For example, when you walk up the stairs. In normal games, you would stick with the same animation and just go up them. But in Red Dead 2, Arthur kind of like switches the way he walks, so he's actually stepping on the steps, and I think that's just a great detail to have. And so far, I think the game is amazing. I really misjudged it at the beginning. The first act is a little boring, not gonna lie, but once you get past it, you're in for a very, very fun adventure. I think it's gonna take a while before I can finish the game, but I'll be sure to. Now we gotta go into a quick music break, so I'm gonna let you all off with some Elton John. Specifically, I am going to let you guys listen to Rocket Man. And we're back. That was Space Oddity by David Bowie. Hope you guys like that one. Very popular one here in the show. I know I listen to it probably too much. It's a very deep song for me, and I do probably listen to it too much. But yeah, two very space related songs, and we're going to talk about something not space related. We are actually going to talk about another game that recently came out, God of War Ragnarok. That game is not out yet, I believe, but it did come out in a few places. So much so that there's already huge spoilers on YouTube, and that's been kind of messing with a lot of people's day. But there's already been a review on it from one of my most trusted YouTubers. His name is Young Yeah. If you like video games, I do suggest getting your news from him. But he reviewed the game and said it was a masterpiece. And, that makes me excited because recently I've kind of gotten in tuned with the God of War lore thanks to my roommate. Yeah, the same one that got me into Cyberpunk all those years ago. He was excited for the new Ragnarok game and went on this kind of binge pretty much playing all the other God of War games, 1, 2, 3, Ascension, and then playing the reboot slash sequel of one on PS4. I don't really know too much about that one, but um, yeah, he played all of them, and unfortunately, I didn't sit through all of them, but I did sit through a good chunk of the last one, the one that was on PS4, and that one had so much good in it. It was amazing. Um, it was kind of open worldish in a sense, like it was made up of different levels, and it was the graphics looked great. The combat was very different from the previous God of War games. It was very I don't know how to explain it. It was like very grounded, if that makes sense. He was a lot more agile and quick in the original God of Wars, the first few, and that one really sort of in this new one. Sorry, he's very more. He's like brutal. He's very brutish, if that makes sense. I don't even think that's a word, but he's very almost tank-like. He fights alongside his son in the PS4 version, and that made for more interesting gameplay as his son shoots a bow and arrow with magical elements. And the game is pretty much set with him and his son sort of going to the top of the mountain in the land of giants so that they could spread the ashes of his wife slash his son's mother, her ashes, because she passes away at the beginning of the game. Well, the game starts with her already having passed away, and the game was very fun to watch. There was a couple of times that I will not lie, I did want to get up and just play along. So much so that by the end of the game, I even asked, like, should I play it? And he was like, well, you kind of already saw most of it. So, going into Ragnarok, though, this, in case you don't know, God of War was originally based on Greek mythology, but because Kratos pretty much killed the entire Greek pantheon, he kind of went into the new realm, which is Norse mythology, Nordic mythology, which instead of like Zeus, Poseidon, you have Thor, Odin, all of them. Sorry, there's people outside talking, and it's kind of making me hard to concentrate, but I'm trying. Very Nordic. Throughout his gameplay, I kept making the joke of like, so when are we gonna see Chris Hemsworth as Thor? When are we gonna see Loki and Iron Man and the others? And I could tell that I was getting on his nerves whenever I asked this, but the game was pretty solid. The story was pretty solid. It was basically a father and son journey. Unlike other games, I don't know. We've been getting a lot of storylines about a father figure with a child figure lately in media. We have The Mandalorian. We have The Last of Us. Now we have God of War. I'm sure there are more that I can name off of, but those are the only ones that come up in the top of my head. We have a lot of those now, and not that I'm complaining, because they do tell really good stories. The story of a parent and child is always one that goes for interest. We had something similar happen in Stranger Things with Sheriff Hopper and Eleven, how he kind of like adopted her and everything. So, yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic that I think media has sort of fallen into nowadays. If you want me to talk more about that, then stay tuned. We're going to go into another music break. This is Cold as Ice by Foreigner. Hey guys, welcome back. That was Layla by Derek and the Dominoes. A very romantic song for the evening. Well, afternoon. I've played it before, but I don't know if I've ever told the story of how that song came to be. The main guy for Derek and the Dominoes was actually in love with, get this, his best friend's wife. I kid you not. So, he didn't do anything at first, but his emotions just consumed the heck out of him, to the point where he wrote Layla, this song that was inspired by some folk tale out in India, I think. And it was supposed to basically air out his emotions, and I mean, it succeeded. He came up with this very powerful guitar solo at the beginning. It was very intense, very emotionally charged, And he essentially sang the song to her eventually, and she immediately figured it out. She immediately figured out that it was for her. And to make a long story short, they ended up getting married. And who was his best man? You guessed it, his best friend, the ex-husband of his now wife. Very crazy story, but what can I tell you? That was the 80s rock scene back in the day. We'll never get anything like it. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to get off soon. As I mentioned, I kind of started the show late, so I'm gonna let you off, guys, a little early. I do apologize, it won't happen again. Next show, I will be here on time, and I will be here with more stuff prepared for you. Thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate every single one of you who listens. And be sure to check out my channel too. I made a YouTube channel as I said I would do. I know I was kind of late to the party on that regard, but I finally did make it. It has, let me get you the name right here. It is Dead Man with a 3 instead of the E. So that is capital D3 AD capital MAN. And it has a, you'll know it's me with a picture of a skull wearing headphones talking into a microphone. Very creative, I know. Thank you, Maria Sanchez, for that artwork. I really appreciate it. It was supposed to go to the station, but things didn't pan out right, so I didn't want the art to die out, and so I asked her permission. So all credits go to her for that. But yeah, follow my YouTube and watch my latest video on my review of the Cyberpunk anime if you're interested, and give it a thumbs up if you can. For now, I'm going to let you guys off with the final countdown from Europe, a very well-known song, a very emotionally charged song. So be sure to enjoy it, party on a Monday, and I'll see you guys next week.